Good day, grade 12 learners, and welcome to the first grade 12 content video that I'll be conducting. In today's video, we will do a brief introduction into the first topic which you will cover in your grade 12 syllabus, which will be DNA, the code of life. You will notice that at the start of each topic, before I'm going to be going through the content with you, I'm first going to illustrate to you what the exam guidelines state in that particular topic, so that in this way you know exactly which aspects of the topic you are required to know in your grade 12 syllabus. So you will notice that when your subject teachers are going to be issuing the notes to you in each respective topic, the first page of your notes will always have your exam guidelines set out to you. If you do not have it on you, you can also refer to the exam guidelines that I'm placing on the screen at the start of my videos. So in today's video, we'll be doing the introduction to DNA, and firstly you will notice that it says DNA, the code of life. This topic is going to come out in paper 2 of your exams, and it's going to roughly be about 27 marks. It's generally covered in term 1, and it's going to normally be covered over a period of 2 weeks. When we are going to be looking at the introduction to DNA, there are 3 basic points that we will look at. Firstly, we'll do a revision of the structure of the cell with emphasis on the ribosome, cytoplasm, and parts of the nucleus. Secondly, we'll look at 2 types of nucleic acids, that will be DNA and RNA. And lastly, we'll look at nucleic acids consisting of nucleotides. So let's look at the first thing, the revision of the structure of the cell. So if you have to look at the general structure of the cell, very similar to what you learned in grade 9 and grade 10, the cell is going to comprise of a number of components. But generally, because we are looking at DNA, we are going to place emphasis on certain structures. The first most important organelle that we're going to be looking at inside the cell is going to be the nucleus. Secondly, we'll look at the ribosome, the mitochondria, and then the cytoplasm, which is the fluid inside the cell. Now, the reason as to why emphasis is placed on the nucleus, the ribosome, and the mitochondria is because these are the locations in which we can find our nucleic acids. So we will look at 2 types of nucleic acids in this topic. We will look at DNA as well as RNA. I'm first going to look at the nucleus, and we're going to look at the inside of the nucleus, since majority of our DNA, majority of our deoxyribonucleic acid is generally found inside the nucleus. So very similar to what you learned in grade 9, the nucleus is a structure that looks like this. And the nucleus comprises of a number of different components. I'm just going to go through it with you now. So firstly, on the outside, you're going to have your nuclear envelope, or also known as the nuclear membrane. You are then going to have your nuclear pores, which are little gaps inside the nuclear membrane on the outside. It's going to allow the entry and exit of certain substances either into and out of the nucleus. Then, very importantly, you are going to have the chromatin network. This is referred to as the chromatin network. You have the nucleolus inside the nucleus. The fluid is referred to as the nucleoplasm. So those are all the different labels that you are going to have of the actual structure of the nucleus. And the reason as to why we are placing emphasis on the nucleus here is because deoxyribonucleic acid, also referred to as DNA, is mainly located inside the nucleus. If we have a look at the chromatin network is basically going to comprise of that DNA strand, and the chromatin network will later on form the chromosome, and it is in the chromosome where you will also find your DNA. If we are looking at our nucleic acids, like I have mentioned earlier on, there are two types of nucleic acids that we will look at in this topic. The first type of nucleic acid being DNA, that is going to be deoxyribonucleic acid. The second type of nucleic acid will be RNA, and that will be ribonucleic acid. There will be a certain process that we will look at when we're going to be studying DNA as a type of nucleic acid. That process is going to allow two further processes to take place in our RNA strand, and this will assist us in the formation of our protein. So generally, DNA is going to be known for providing the code for protein synthesis. And you will notice that the arrows are moving from DNA to RNA, and lastly it is going on to the formation of a protein. So at the end of this topic, we will speak about protein synthesis, and then we will learn exactly how a protein is formed. So what is DNA? So as I've mentioned earlier on, DNA generally stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. You will notice that the DNA structure that we are going to be looking at generally originates from the chromosome, and as I've mentioned earlier on as well, the chromosome is going to come from the chromatin network that is found inside the nucleus. Now, each chromosome is a very long molecule of tightly coiled DNA. So therefore, you can see the DNA structure that we have here, it is originally descending from this chromosome that we have on top. Now, another important factor to remember is that the DNA molecule carries the code that controls what your cells are made of and what they are going to be doing. The monomers or building blocks of DNA, what does this mean? These are general building blocks under which the DNA molecule needs in order for them to actually perform their function. So monomers or building blocks of DNA are referred to as nucleotides, and without these nucleotides, the DNA strand will not be able to be that double-stranded molecule that we are going to have. So the nucleotides generally comprise of three components. It's firstly going to be your phosphate group. Secondly, it's going to be a pentose sugar. And thirdly, it's going to be a nitrogenous base. So I'm just going to repeat that. The building blocks of DNA, they are referred to as the monomers of DNA. They are the nucleotides. The nucleotides comprises of three components, that is the phosphate group, the pentose sugar, as well as the nitrogenous base. In summary, based on the exam guidelines, when we introduced the topic on DNA, the code of life, these were three things which we touched on in this video. Firstly, we looked at the revision of the structure of the cell, with emphasis on the ribosome, cytoplasm, and parts of the nucleus. We said that there were two types of nucleic acids, that was DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, as well as RNA, ribonucleic acid. And then lastly, we said that nucleic acids consisted of nucleotides. We said nucleotides was the building blocks of DNA, and they comprise of the phosphate group, the sugar, as well as the nitrogenous base. So that's the end of this first part of DNA, the introduction to DNA, the code of life. In the next video, we will look at the structure and location of DNA.